Utah Mammoth fans, welcome into a Utah Mammoth Daily update for today. So, goalie situation. What's going on there? Well, obviously, Karel Vejmelka is number one. Veggie will be number one. He's got the contract to back that up, too. But who's going to be behind him? Is it going to be Connor Ingram or is it going to be Vitek Vanacek? Well, my cold analytical brain says Vitek Vanacek. And he's got the proven Stanley Cup experience. He was the starter with the Devils before last season, and he has less of a meltdown risk in big spots. My heart screaming for Connor Ingram. He's just a guy you want to root for and a guy you want to see succeed. But the catch is Connor Ingram has more of a chance to move between the AHL and the NHL than Vitek Vanacek does, just because of the unknown surrounding Connor Ingram when he comes back, or now that he's back after missing that extended period of time. As we all know, teams live and die by what happens in the net, and Utah has to get this decision right. But I think they ultimately go with Vanacek as the backup simply because of that cup experience, and that's something that Bill Armstrong and company have been bringing in. We've seen it the past 2 years. But don't count out Ingram. Don't count him out, because he's going to be playing hard for that job. But another job that's really hard is special teams, power play. Who's going to be on that killer line? It might be Utah's biggest weapon. It's not. There's no secret fry sauce here. It's pretty much Clayton Keller, Logan Cooley, Dylan Guenther, Sergachev, and I'm going to put Nate Schmidt on that top line over John Marino or Sean Durzi, because I think Nate Schmidt is a better sniper than the other two. That's offense from every angle with vision and finishing everywhere at all five spots. It puts pressure on the four guys or three guys, depending on the power play situation, that any pressure point can break at any time in those 2 minutes. One-timers, tips, net crashing. I mean, Logan Cooley needs to get better at crashing the net. I saw improvement from Dylan Guenther throughout the season in doing that as well. Clayton Keller, he can just do it all, so I'm not worried about him. But the penalty kill will have to be scrappy. They do need to get better on the penalty kill. But if Utah's power play can continue to be top 10, because they were number 10 in the league last year, so if they can improve on that, they'll steal points all season long. Special teams could be the Mammoths' shortcut to the playoffs. So that's really something I'm looking forward to. And being the popular sleeper pick for the Central Division this year, well, who are they going to wake up? Who's going to fall back while Utah rises? So the Central Division was brutal last season, obviously. I mean, just look at the standings. Winnipeg, the President's Cup winners, 116 points. Dallas cracked 100. Colorado cracked 100 points. Even Minnesota and St. Louis were right there in the mid-90s. St. Louis, to me, last year was more of a fluke than anything else, because they just got super hot towards the end of the season, and that's what allowed them to get into the playoffs. They weren't super consistent throughout the season, except for in that one stretch after the Four Nations Cup, which is when you need to be hot, obviously. But that team could be the one that drops off. Utah, as we know, finished at 89 points, which is nothing to sneeze at, especially with the history of the Arizona Coyotes in front of them. But it shows exactly how thin that margin is. The real question is who's vulnerable this year. Nashville struggled. We all know that. They spent big in free agency, and it just never meshed together. So they are a team to look out for that could bounce back in a major way this year. Chicago was dead last at 61 points. They're probably not going to be making any sort of hard charging towards the playoffs. So those two are the obvious targets, but the real opportunity comes if Minnesota or St. Louis slip. Both are good, but not great. And if either takes a step back, that's Utah's chance to slide into the playoffs. The Mammoth don't need to catch Colorado or Dallas or Winnipeg. That's not realistic. But they do need to wake up one of those middle-tier teams and steal their spot. If Utah can turn those 4-point games into wins, they're suddenly in the thick of the playoffs and potentially can make some noise. I mean, with the offense that Utah has and everything that they're capable of doing in the offense, I seriously think this team can make some really, really big noise come Stanley Cup playoff time. Veggie needs to get hot, though, but that is something to look forward to, and something that is really fun for armchair analysts, lazy boy GMs, all whatever you want to call it. I really enjoy front office musings, what could happen, what players could be on the move, which prospects are other teams clamoring for. So let's talk trade bait. I talked yesterday about dream targets, who would be just the perfect addition to this team. Well, who would be on the way out in a trade situation like that? So let's talk about the Utah's assets here. The obvious name here is Nick Schmaltz. I love Schmaltzy. I love his game, but he's in the final year of his deal and he's 28. If I were him, I'd want to test free agency, or if I get traded to the right situation, do a sign and trade sort of thing. He's still young enough to attract a contender. Another interesting name to look for is if a team is looking for defensive depth with experience. Juuso Välimäki is another solid defenseman, and he's going to have that Four Nations experience from last year as well as Olympic experience this year if he can stay healthy. He's also on an expiring deal, and so that could be something, at least on the NHL level, that could move. If Utah needs to match salary, guys like Ian Cole, Olli Mata, or Lawson Krause could move because of the prospect pool behind them. That could shake some minutes loose for those younger guys to come up. Guys like Daniil Butt, Simachev, Iginla, Desnoyers, the list goes on and on. And dovetailing back to our goalie chat at the top of this episode, I think they'd move Connor Ingram before Vitek Vanacek. They targeted Vitek Vanacek because of that Stanley Cup experience, and Connor Ingram, while there's a lot of unknowns, he's still young enough to be able to make an impression and be solid goalie depth. He also can help match in a salary matching situation. When it comes to draft picks, Utah's still loaded. We've got 3 seconds and 2/3 in this upcoming draft, plus 2 picks in each of the second, third, and fourth round in 2027. There's also prospects like Artem Duda, Michael Hrabel in goal, Cole Bedoin, and maybe even Daniil Butt if the Utah Mammoth front office needs to move the needle in a trade talk situation. And the only reason I bring up Daniil Butt is because he plays the same position as Tidge Iginla, and I think Tidge Iginla has face of the franchise capabilities, and he has the name cachet that Daniil Butt doesn't have. So that could sweeten any deal if you put Daniil Butt's name in there. This front office has a ton of ammo. The only question is when they decide to fire it. They've been very patient in this rebuild, this build up. I don't know if you could call what Arizona had a rebuild because they were never that good, but they are building something here. And it just depends on how fast they want to turn the dial. Is it this year or is it next year? But they've got the ammunition to make a move. And one thing I didn't bring up there is the amount of cap space they have to make a move. They have almost $7 million in cap space as well. So they can take on a bigger contract with those other contracts I mentioned to kind of match it up. So that is your Utah Mammoth Daily update today. Tusks up, and I'll see you tomorrow.